Hi, it's Mr. Mac, and we want to ask the question, how do we actually answer written response questions? There's a particularly difficult 9-mark question in the 2023 HSC exam, and we're going to break it down, analyse it, and find out how to actually write a response that's worthy of 9 marks out of 9.
This is Mr. Mac. He can explain things really well and is a lot of fun to watch. You can subscribe to Mr. Mac's Physics channel. You will find mathematics problems, science demonstrations, astronomy and space pics, physics calculations and simple explanations of advanced concepts.
So we're going to see, how do I write a 9-mark exam response? And in particular, we're going to be answering the 2023 Physics HSC question number 33. And here it is. Now it says, consider the following statement, and then it gives 3-line paragraph, 3-line sentence, and then it says justify this statement with reference to observations that have been made and experiments that scientists have carried out. It's worth 9 marks, so that's why that's circled. Consider means that I must show in my answer that I've used this statement, and justify means I must support my argument with evidence. Now, in the HSC, you're only given 22 lines, that's less than a page, to write your response. So exam technique, you must use some extra writing space. You find that at the end of section 2, the booklet there. But also, make sure you do this one first. This is a really important question. And annotate your exam. So here's what I did. I've circled and underlined the key verbs. Circle statement and emphasize that because I must refer to it. I need to show that the statement is used. I've put a box around the main subject, which has to do with subatomic particles, but I've also underlined what I need to put in the answer: fields, particles, matter. Also, double underlined processes and properties, both of those need to be referred to. And in the core of the question, the last sentence there, justify this statement with reference to firstly observations and secondly experiments. Must do both. And always be aware of the word and. And so what is my thesis? I'm going to start with, yes, I agree with it. It's the interaction of subatomic particles with fields, as well as other types of particles and matter, has increased our understanding. That's my thesis. And I'm going to use the rest of the bulk of the essay to actually state how it supports this thesis. So we're going to construct an argument. I suggest use a scaffold. Now you can find all sorts of scaffolds online. Here's one about the word justify, and it gives you boxes to write in and a way to write a conclusion. But in the end, that's not going to be very helpful unless we're actually able to write the sentences that go in those boxes. And this is an opportunity for you to showcase your knowledge and wider reading. And here's a simple scaffold. Don't be any more complicated than that, because you really just want to know that, what am I going to write next? What am I going to write next? So, introduction, 4 paragraphs and a conclusion. So it's important to write all over your exam paper, as I've done up here, although this is probably a bit over the top. And come up with a plan. And again, I've used up all 22 lines just for the plan, so we shouldn't waste too much time in writing a plan, but we must write a plan. Here's a plan, and it looks like a nice, neat table. In an exam, you would jot this down very quickly, but make sure you have a plan. It's important to put the thesis at the top in the introduction, refer to it again in the conclusion. And in this case, I'm going to choose 2 from the syllabus that are really quite obvious. Millikan, the oil drop experiment with quantized charge, Chadwick's discovery of the neutron. But I'm also going to refer to Davison and Germer and how they show the wave nature of electrons, and a bit of wider reading, Jill Mann, his discovery of quarks at CERN. There's my plan.
Now, I'm a marker. If a student writes about 4 different experiments and their observations, then they have fulfilled the criteria to reference at least 2 observations and 2 experiments.
And when you're presented with a blank page like this, you might be frozen. take a moment to say, how am I going to start with a bit of impact, start with an introduction, and write legibly. It's very important to actually put that thought in your mind before you start writing. Remember, markers are teachers who've spent the full day at work. They get home and they're on the computer screen watching scanned exam responses. So if you don't write legibly, they won't be able to read it clearly. In the introduction, state the main thesis of your argument and use keywords from the question. So scientists have made observations, conducted experiments showing the interaction of subatomic particles with fields. Don't use the words I think, even though you are stating your opinion. Of course you're stating your opinion. It's your work. Nor use the first person pronoun in your response. Don't say, I think scientists have made many observations. It sounds weak. It's unnecessary. Preview your main points. You don't have to list the 4, although some people like to. The temptation is to start writing and then run away in the introduction with too much. So I've simply put, these observations and experiments have led to further discoveries over the years, such as Millikan's oil drop experiment led to the discovery that charge is quantized. Now please note that's going to structure my paragraphs. Yes, Millikan's oil drop experiment, I'll describe it, explain it if necessary, but I need to show the important point that it leads to an increase of our understanding. It will be shown that our understanding of electrons, neutrons, and other subatomic particles have been united into the standard model of matter that explain their processes and properties. Please note, keywords all the way through the introduction. Don't spend too much time there, however. You can waste 5 minutes, 10 minutes writing a beautiful introduction and then run out of time to write the rest. So we're writing the first paragraph of the body, and we need to start with a topic sentence and then make points that elaborate that. So the first sentence says, one experiment that led to discovering properties of electrons is Robert Millikan's oil drop experiment, which showed that the electric charge in oil drops is quantized. And if that's all I wrote, then I've made the point. But I also need to explain it and give evidence that justifies that statement and come back to the main thesis and idea. So while the experiment neither proved that the fundamental value of the electric unit is negative 1.9 times 10 to the negative 19 coulombs, nor that electric charge in itself is quantized, it has led to further discoveries that give a determination of its value. Don't need to go into details as to what those further discoveries are. The idea is that we're building Millikan's oil drop experiment leads to further understanding. So the experiment used special apparatus where ionized oil droplets could fall between 2 electric plates. By measuring the voltage and the rate of fall, the property of charge on the oil drop could be determined. Here's the linked sentence at the bottom. Thus, Millikan's experiment has led to an increase of our understanding of a fundamental particle. Next step is to write the next paragraph. Again, write a topic statement. In this case, I've chosen Chadwick and his discovery of neutrons. Make sure you include wider reading. Now, in this case, I've just put in more details than perhaps you'd see it in the textbook, but you perhaps wouldn't have thought to put them in, like thin beryllium foil, alpha particles, radioactive polonium isotope. But then the next few sentences draw out how this is a particle that they haven't seen before. They're not electrons, they're not protons. And jumping down, he concluded they were massive as protons. And since they didn't produce the photoelectric effect, they were not electromagnetic radiation. Now, the point I want to make is not to go into any more details than that. I want to state that Chadwick's experiment further demonstrates an increase in understanding of subatomic particles. and it gets built on. So we elaborate and we link to build a case. Now that's straight from your textbook. So we write the next body paragraph. And again, write topic sentence. And in this case, I want to show my wider reading. And you can find the article for this as well. This is Davison and Germer in their work at Bell Laboratories, as they would say in New York, or laboratories. And this was them confirming the wave nature of electrons. And I won't read through the whole thing, but have a look at the second last sentence where Davison's experimental work led to the development of the electron microscope. Therefore, Davison and Germer's work generated further increases in our understanding of fundamental particles. So again, it's been elaborated and linked through to the main idea. And this body paragraph, again, we're going to link back as well as forwards. So the first sentence says, not only did Davison and Germer's work increase our understanding of fundamental particles, Murray Gell-Mann was a physicist working at CERN in 1964, and he proposed that properties of the strongly interacting particles, hadrons, could be explained if they were made up of constituent particles. At CERN in Geneva, particle accelerators use electric fields and magnetic fields to accelerate subatomic particles close to the speed of light. A series of electron-proton scattering experiments showed that nucleons have an inner structure. He later coined the word quarks for them. Quarks are now a key part of the Standard Model. In numerous experiments at CERN, including those at the Large Hadron Collider, LHC, physicists today are measuring the properties of subatomic particles with ever greater precision, yielding increases in our understanding. So that's quite a complex set of ideas, but it also shows wider reading about Davison and Germer's work, which has been elaborated and linked through to the main thesis. Lastly, we write a conclusion. And in this, we need to summarise the main points, refer to the question, and restate the main thesis. So, Millikan's use of ionised oil droplets in gravitational electric fields showed that charges are quantised, leading to the discovery of the charge on electrons. Also, Chadwick's experiment, where subatomic alpha particles were fired at beryllium foil, resulting in the discovery of neutrons, led to greater, here's the quote, understanding of the processes that occur in the physical world and the properties of subatomic particles themselves, as the statement asserts. So just using those 4 words, as the statement asserts, and explicitly ties in your essay with the question. Now, I don't want to write 2 more paragraphs, so I'm just going to write 1 sentence that contains 2 ideas. Similarly, Davison and Germer's work at Bell Laboratories and Gell-Mann's work at CERN used, quote, the interaction of subatomic particles with other types of particles. So I pulled it all together, tied it in with the statement in the question. Last sentence, therefore, our understanding of the processes and properties of subatomic particles has continued to increase, as the statement asserts. Now, you're welcome to go to the website. I've got the link there. You can click on that and find the guided reading. You can find this essay in a Word document or PDF. So we've seen how to write written response to a 9-mark question in the HSC. And it doesn't apply simply to the atom. It applies to all sorts of questions in physics and even in other subjects. I'm Mr. Mac. Thanks for watching.